This is one of those stories with a massive contradiction right at its heart. On one side, you have a company that's celebrated for its green technology, a really key player in Europe's big push for electric cars. And on the other, you have that exact same company being accused of causing one of the worst environmental disasters in the Amazon's recent history. So, how can both of those things be true at the same time?
And this slide really nails that conflict. You've got the promise, shiny, so-called climate-efficient aluminum, the metal that's supposed to build our green future. Then you have the allegation, a devastating trail of toxic red mud that's poisoning the Amazon rainforest. This right here is the story of Norsk Hydro. Okay, so let's start with this idea of a green promise but a red reality. Norsk Hydro, they market this product called Hydro Redux. They say it's low carbon, it's sustainable. But if you talk to the communities in Barcarena, Brazil, their reality isn't green at all. No, it's the color of the toxic red sludge they say has completely poisoned their home.
And this brings us to a concept that is absolutely crucial to understanding this whole situation: polluter by proxy. It's a simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. Basically, it means a company, or even a whole country, in this case Norway, which is the majority shareholder, is profiting from pollution happening somewhere else. They're using practices in the Amazon that would be totally illegal back home in Norway. They're essentially outsourcing their environmental damage, while the profits flow right back north.
So, how did this green promise spiral into such a disaster? To understand that, we need to look at what's been happening at the company's Alunorte refinery, which, by the way, is the largest of its kind in the entire world. The company's history here is just marked by one environmental crisis after another. Back in 2009, a waste deposit overflowed and poisoned the Muracupi River. Then in 2018, another huge spill happened. Both times, the company blamed the weather, unprecedented heavy rains. But just this year, in 2024, a Brazilian court finally looked back at that 2009 disaster and said the pollution was, quote, indisputable. And that raises a massive question. After that 2018 disaster, Hydro flat out denied any leaks or any overflows. But you couldn't deny the pollution. It was everywhere. So if the dams didn't break, where in the world did it all come from? Well, this is where the story takes a really dark turn. Investigators from Brazil's famous Evandro Chagas Institute, they found the answer. It was a clandestine pipeline, a secret pipe, built for one reason: to bypass the refinery's treatment systems and dump raw, untreated toxic waste directly into the environment. Now, to understand just how bad this was, you need a baseline. In Brazil, the legal limit for aluminum in a stream or river is 0.1 milligrams per liter, okay? Just remember that number, 0.1. So the first place investigators tested was in the streams of the Bom Futuro community. Where people live, where they fish, where their kids play. The aluminum level they found there was 22 milligrams per liter. That is 220 times the legal limit. But believe it or not, it gets so much worse. When they tested the water right at the point where that secret pipe was discharging, the reading was a staggering 6,000 milligrams per liter. I mean, you can't even call that a leak. That's a direct, industrial-scale injection of poison into the Amazon's water system. And of course, this kind of pollution, it has a devastating human cost. We're not just talking about numbers on a chart anymore. We're talking about people's lives being turned upside down. Just listen to this description from a local resident. They said their well water, their only source of drinking water, suddenly started to taste like perfume. It is such a chilling, bizarre detail. It really speaks to the sheer volume of chemicals that had just seeped into everything. And the physical effects were immediate, and they were brutal. People started reporting sudden, unexplained hair loss. Horrible skin lesions and rashes started breaking out all over the communities. Kids were getting sick with persistent diarrhea and vomiting. And of course, the fish, a staple of their diet, was poisoned. So was the produce they grew in the now contaminated soil. And for some, speaking out against this, it came at the highest possible price. In March of 2018, right after that big spill, a community leader named Paulo Nascimento was shot and killed. This happened just a short time after he had formally denounced Norsk Hydro's environmental crimes to the authorities. So you have to ask yourself, how does something like this happen? And more importantly, how does it keep happening? Well, for that, you have to follow the money, and you have to look at the power structures that allow it. Check this out. The local state government of Pará gave Norsk Hydro around 7.5 billion reais in tax incentives. That's a massive subsidy.
So what did the state get in return? Well, the state audit court found that Para only got back about 21% of the compensation it was actually due. The state was basically draining its own finances to prop this company up. And this is where that polluter by proxy idea comes roaring back. The Norwegian state is the single biggest shareholder in Norsk Hydro. The Ministry of Trade owns over 34% of it, and their government pension fund holds another 6.5%. So the Norwegian government itself directly profits from Hydro's operations, even as it tries to distance itself from what's happening on the ground in Brazil. And what this all reveals is this just stark, unbelievable double standard. In Norway, Hydro's facilities use state-of-the-art tech. They have super high safety standards. But in Brazil, the technology is described as cheaper and more hazardous. They were caught operating waste deposits without the proper permits inside a specially designated ecological reserve. It's like they're playing by a completely different and much dirtier set of rules. But faced with this reality, the communities have not given up. Not even close. Their struggle for accountability has now exploded into a global fight for justice.
So this battle is being fought on two big fronts. In Brazil, you've got civil lawsuits targeting the illegal licensing of those waste sites. But maybe even more importantly, a case that represents 11,000 victims has been taken all the way to a court in the Netherlands. And in what could be a game-changing decision, the Dutch court ruled that the parent company, Norsk Hydro, can be held liable for what its Brazilian subsidiaries do. This is a huge, huge deal for transnational corporate accountability.
So when you boil it all down, here's the crucial point. The green aluminum that's going into our electric cars, the very material that's supposed to help save our climate, is, in this case, being produced at an immense environmental and human cost in the Amazon. And it forces us all to ask a really uncomfortable question. What is the true cost of a green transition, and who exactly is being forced to pay for it?